We're going to shift gears a little bit this morning, and most of you are familiar with wheels. I was looking at a Gunsmoke the other day. I love westerns, of course. Most boys do, and I still consider myself a boy. Was watching a Gunsmoke the other day, and of course Doc Adams came in his little buggy. You know, the wheels on that buggy don't look like they're very strong, but they don't have to be, because they're just carrying Doc and his little old satchel, you know, with these pills in it. And so they don't have to be made very strong. But later on in that program, or another one, a guy was running a freight business. And those wheels on that freight wagon were heavy duty. They were even bigger and heavier than the ones on the Stagecoach. And I noticed how big they were, how thick the rims were, how big the spokes were, and how much larger the diameter of the hub was. And I had some notes laid back along that same line, so we're going to talk about wheels a little bit this morning. Mainly we're going to talk about the spokes in the wheels. I'm not going to tell you anything about the wheel. I'm going to let you tell me. But I submit to you that in the wheels of your life or your family, your relationship with each other, that roll every day, they take us somewhere. Maybe 2 wheels, maybe 3 wheels, maybe 4. That's immaterial. Right now we're just going to talk about the makeup of the wheel, specifically the spokes. Because if a spoke breaks, you weaken the wheel, and it may not carry the load. And that happened on that episode of Gunsmoke that I was watching, and it kind of triggered me to go back through my notes and find some stuff. And I dug up some stuff, and I've revamped it. I went to Elaine the other day, and I said, well, I've got troubles. And she said, what is it now? She said, what is it now? I said, well, I found out that these notes that I taught to young couples 30, 35, and 40 years ago are going to have to be revamped just a little bit, because I don't have anybody hardly that age anymore. But I think this will fit anywhere. Spoke number 1. We're going to try this, see how it works, see what we got, see if we got something on the screen. We're trying to do something here, a little bit different. And spoke number 1 at the top, very important spoke, is your relationship with the Lord. And the first thing that I wrote down on this, I think is critical. Does it exist? When Elaine and I got married 54 years ago last Friday, neither one of us knew the Lord. We've both been raised in church, and we were both lost. No direction in life, no purpose, totally clueless. She was 18, I was 20. No idea where we were going. No idea that God even had a plan for our lives or a purpose for us being on this earth. So the question that I throw out to you this morning on spoke number 1 is, I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about your spouse, and we're talking, of course, to the married folks. I know there's a few of you not yet. Does it exist? Are you sure that the woman or man that you're married to knows Jesus? Critical spoke. Could there be a more critical spoke? I don't think so. In other words, is there any doubt in your mind about your spouse's salvation? Now, I know we ask that about ourselves, and certainly I'm responsible for my answer. But what about the woman or the man that you live with? Is there any doubt? Is there that little sick feeling down in your gut that they may not be what they're acting like they are? We got work to do if that's the case. Is this an area of our relationship that we share? In this spoke number 1 in the wheel, your relationship with the Lord. Now you're always investigating and trying to make yours grow, but what about theirs? First, does it exist? Is there any doubt that it exists? Is this something we talk about? Is this a common thing? Do you ever talk about the time you were saved and what God's been doing since then? I was saved on a Sunday night, and Elaine was saved the next Tuesday night in the spring of 1972. and we kind of grew along together. I think she ran ahead of me for the most part. Most people that know both of us will agree with that. But does it exist? This is something you talk about. Now we're talking, this wheel's going to be rolling now as you move and as you go about what God's called you to do. And there's going to be some times when the strength of the rim is going to be tested. But it doesn't make, I don't know what the rim is. You're going to have to figure out the rim and the hub yourself. But what about the spoke of your relationship to the Lord? Is it real? Do you talk about it? Do you talk about the time that it happened? What God has taught you since then? Maybe it was a month ago. Maybe it was 25 years ago. Is it something that's a part of your everyday conversation about your relationship with the Lord? Does it come up from time to time? Do you bring it up from time to time? Is it important enough to you that that either one of you can bring it up and the other one is comfortable with it? Now, this sheet I'm holding in my hand is just a plain old piece of notebook paper. But I wrote this out last week. This was not part of the original wheels and spokes thing that I did years ago. Do you ever discuss on procedures? And maybe that's not a good word, but that's the word I'm going to use. Do you ever discuss procedures on how to lead someone to Christ? If you get an opportunity for a counseling situation, and fellas, it's just you and some old boy that you bumped into, that you worked with, that you met at the gas station, I don't care who it is or where it is, do you and your wife ever talk about, what do you start with? Elaine starts completely different than I do. But you've got to have a place to start. If you start and take that first step, the Holy Spirit will move in. He'll lead you to the second step. But do you ever discuss that? Is that something husband and wives talk about? Is it important to you? I submit to you that having a relationship with the Lord is critical. So when you get the opportunity to lead someone to the Lord and you and your spouse talk about it later on, do you discuss the details of it? Do you discuss, well, I wish I'd had that scripture memorized instead of having to look it up? Is that part of your conversation? Does this sound crazy to you? Should this not be a part of a Christian couple's conversation? Let me tell you what the most important part is. Make sure you're a Christian couple. Let's go back and put the nails in the board. Make sure that you're both on the same track. So the questions again, does it exist? Is there any doubt that your spouse is a Christian? Do you share about it? Do you talk about it? Do you discuss? Do you discuss how you lead other people to the Lord? Because it's not enough for you to have it. You need to share it with someone. So spoke number one. Any thoughts about what the hub of the wheel is? You're not going to get it from me. Any thoughts? If you've ever seen, or if you've ever been, I know most of you are not old enough to be here, but I have helped grease the wheels on the old wagon on the farm when I was a young boy. And just kicking it loose and pulling it out gently, don't pull it out too far. Put a little grease behind it, throw it back, tighten it down, go on, we grease the wheels. But Dad always looked at what condition the hub was in, because that's where all those spokes come together. That's where they all work together. That's where the strength has to be. So I challenge you, what is the hub of the wheel? And then the part that I always say, where the water hits the wheel or the rubber meets the road, what about the rim? That's the part that hits the mud holes, the chug holes, stumps in your life, whatever, as you roll down through life, as you're going along. What about that? What's the rim made out of? Better be made out of something pretty tough. But we're just going to talk about spokes. I just want you to do some thinking. Spoke number two. Spoke number two. Worship as a family. Wasn't real important in my life as far as my dad was concerned. Dad got saved late in life. But Mom took us to church before I remember. I was the oldest of four. I remember going to church. I remember singing in church when I was 6. Something my mother and the pianist worked out. I didn't have anything to do with it. I was just told to do it. And when Mama was about 5'9" and weighed about 300. When Mama told me to do something, I did it. And worship as a family. Be there. There's a couple of scriptures I want you to look at. Look in Psalms 122 verse 1. Psalm 120, because you're supposed to have notebooks already in front of you, right? Psalm 122 1. I think it's an exciting verse. I read it again yesterday, and I thought, I'm glad this is true in my life. It hasn't always been. Someone read your translation. I don't care what it is.
I rejoice with those who said to me, let us go to the house of the Lord.
There's some really exciting words in that verse. That's not a very long verse, but it's powerful. First of all, it said, I rejoiced. And I think they were rejoicing because they were in contact with someone who wanted to go to the house of the Lord and said, I'm going to go with you. That's pretty exciting. Someone comes by and says, let's go to church. Because you probably already decided you're going anyway. You might want to go by them and say, let us go to church. Does it excite you when you think about Sunday morning? This is the best hour of the week for me. I love it. I love it. King James says, I was glad. Did not imply that they were not glad before, but it said I was gladder, maybe. Truman's translation. I was glad when they said unto me. They didn't say who the they was, but it's whoever they were fellowshipping with, part of their family, somebody they was with right then, said, I was glad when they said unto me, let us go together. Let us go together as one family, two families, 10 families, I don't care. Let us go to the house of the Lord. And we know the purpose is to worship Him and praise Him. The us should be certainly the family, if not more. Luke chapter 4, verse 16 fits right in with this. This is the only two verses I have on this subject for this morning. And I know there are a lot more. Someone read Luke chapter 4, verse 16. This one in Psalms, it just seems like there's an anticipation there. Anticipating. Looking forward to Sunday. I always look forward to Sunday. When Elaine and I pray together on Saturday, I always say, Lord, you already know I'm looking forward to tomorrow. Not looking past Saturday, but I'm always looking forward to Sunday. Luke 4:16. Somebody read that.
He went to Nazareth, where he had been brought up, and on the Sabbath day he went into the synagogue, as was his custom.
Oh.
He stood up to read.
Did you catch? Did you hear that word custom? What would be maybe, we probably wouldn't use the word custom today. What would we say today? Maybe a habit. Maybe. He said he went into the synagogue on the Sabbath day like he had done last week and the week before and the week before and the week before, and he was planning on doing it next week because it was a part of the ebb and flow of Jesus. This is Jesus in Luke 4:16. Do we do that? Is it important? I've shared with you before that just being here, you know, it's exciting to me. Get to be with you, get to be with the Lord's people. I mean, could it be any better? You know, this is as good as it's going to get down here. We get to fellowship together, cry together, listen to each other's situations and problems, pray together. We laugh. When I came in, people were laughing, cutting up. We had this thing about grandchildren. I don't know nothing about that show. But it's exciting to be together as God's people. And the people who do not come, now I'm not talking about church. I'm talking about Bible study. The people who do not come to Bible study miss this. There's not much real fellowship out in that sanctuary. I love Oakland Baptist Church. And except for a couple little sabbaticals, I've been here since 75. But you don't really fellowship much out there. Maybe a couple, 3 minutes before and 10 or 15 minutes afterwards, deciding where we're going to go eat and who's going to buy, you know. But Jesus said he went because it was his custom. Now, if Jesus went on the Sabbath day because of his custom, oh my gosh. If I don't go, I'm going to be missing out on something. My week just does not fit together if I'm not here with y'all. Because I try to confess to you every week that you give me the encouragement I need to make it. I know I'm going to make it because I'm with God's people. Read Luke 4:16 again, please.
He went to Nazareth, where he had been brought up, and on the Sabbath day he went into the synagogue, as was his custom.
Where he was brought up. Now, you may not be able to go to the church where you were brought up. I can't. It's about 490 miles from here to the church where I was raised in. But this is home. This is where I'm being brought up. And it's my habit to be here. I plan on being here. Do you plan on being here? Spoke number 2 in the wheel says, to me at least, that it's important that we follow the pattern set at home so our children will do the same thing. It's kind of a foundational thing. We're talking about it being a spoke. That we've already said that our relationship with the Lord is spoke number 1, and worshiping together. Now, we may not be physically sitting side to side. We don't do as much of that as we used to in the church. But we're here. If we all hear the same thing, we can discuss it later. And the Holy Spirit brings up some things. Every once in a while, Elaine will say, and I know, Floyd, I know I'm in trouble when she says this. Said, do you remember what Brother Randy said Sunday? About what? And then 5 minutes later, she'll finish telling me. But we worship together. We hear the same thing with our ears, even though all of it may not be pertinent this moment, but it might be pertinent on Thursday afternoon about 2 o'clock when all hell breaks loose in your family. And if I wasn't here to get the ammo I need, or to get the cushion that I need to fall on, because sometimes it will go down, don't we? If I miss that on Sunday, it may be 6 months before I recover. I may never recover. We need to worship together as a family. And part of that's the fellowship we have here. So what about these spokes? We've only got 2 in the wheel. I'm really having problems. We're fixing to move to spoke number 3. Go ahead, brother. I tell you what, I just don't know where 4 spokes is going to do it or not. I've never seen too many wheels with 4 spokes. But let's get with number 3. Spoke number 3 is your time together. I know a couple that used to be in my class years ago that I would compliment from time to time because they ran a business together. They were together all the time. I love Elaine, but I don't think I could be with her all the time. I've got this going on and this going on back here behind some of y'all just can't see it. But your time together is critical. And you know why it'll happen? Because you plan for it to happen. If you don't plan for it to happen, it won't happen. It just won't happen. I made myself a couple notes on this. I ask a question of myself and I ask it of you. Is it important that part of your downtime is with each other? You know, I got in trouble 2 weeks ago about the comment I made about the cell phone. It got it got to Elaine quick. I would suggest that you turn it off. But is this time important? There's a few that weren't here, but most of you were, and I'm not going to repeat it. Is that time important for you to get to know each other? You say, well, I already know her. And I say, well, you know, do I really know her? Does she really know me? We change a little bit. Circumstances change. We we got that give and take. We got that tension and relaxation. Do I know where she is? What's going on in her life? Is it important? Well, sure it's important. How important is it important enough to set aside 10 minutes just to go in and sit down? I came in the other evening and over my easy chair, which is not really the best of shape, she put an old spread or something across it because my clothes were dirty. And I knew right quick that she wanted to talk. And she didn't want to wait till I got cleaned up. So I just threw my stuff on the desk and I sat down and I listened for a while. What do you do with that time? I think I am designed, I talked about how an encouragement you are to me. I am designed to receive something from her that if I don't get it, or if I don't get it from her, I won't get it anywhere else. She is the epitome of encouragement. Oh, she'll call me. You know, she said, you know, the other day when we were so-and-so and you did this, I think it would have been better if you'd done that. And I have yet to find her wrong. That's the bad thing about it. Barry, you might as well smile with the rest of the men. I have yet to find her wrong in 54 years. But I get, maybe it's encouragement, maybe it's not. I'm not sure what you call it, but I know that she has a way, and I believe it's a work of God that funnels something from her to me that I need. And if I don't, like I say, if I don't get it from her, I won't get it from anybody else. Nobody knows me any better than she does. Most of us are pretty good at talking. You're very patient listening to me for half an hour plus on Sunday morning. But I think most of this part's going to have to be listening. Men, listen to what she has to say. Ladies, listen to what he has to say. You'll have to listen harder than we do because we men, we'll skirt the issue. You know, we won't tell everything. We'll try to keep something back. Can't try to keep you in the dark, but you women are sharp enough to figure it out. I know you are. We receive encouragement. We learn to listen to each other. I don't mean hear what he or she says. I mean listen. That may be the time that you set and work towards some goals. Have you ever listened to somebody talk and you could sense that they already had a goal, that they already had a plan, that they already had a purpose, they already had a road mapped out that they were going to go down this next week? See if you can pick up on that.
Brother Truman?
Yes.
What did you mean if you'll call something back? Intentionally y'all do that?
Do what?
That bothers me when you said,
What did I say?
when you said, he won't tell you everything, he'll hold a little bit back. Now, do you do that intentionally?
No.
Okay.
No, it's not something. It's just our minds are not complete yet. You know,
Well,
but they're
I'm
getting there.
That's what I was thinking.
Women are very detail.
Uh-oh. Huh?
Men are not detail oriented.
Yeah.
Women are detail oriented. We
Yeah.
want to know the details.
Or we think it's not important, we just let it roll. We just let it
So
roll.
we have to suck it out of it.
And that is so annoying. Oh my gosh, me and Dan got into that. Oh no. And I sent that exact message. If you had given me more details, I would have asked less questions. That was my text.
Okay, carry on. I just.
Good. That's what we want to hear. That's what we want to hear. Yeah, I'll just give you the highlights. I don't believe in details. Women are detail oriented. And women are also sensitive. They're sensitive enough to know when I'm not giving all the details. And it does eliminate some of the questions if I would tell everything to start with.
But I thought you were insecure. I thought you did it intentionally because you don't want us to know everything you know because you're insecure because we already know it anyway.
I believe we're all on the same page. Now this is what life is about. we can laugh at the parts of us that are not there yet. We're not there yet. I'll give you the highlights, but I won't give you the details unless you drag them out of me. Because I just don't think it's important, or I've already forgotten about it, or I was, you know, I may not have been aware of it to start with. I don't know, float along in my own little world, you know. And then when we stop and talk, it starts getting down to the detail part, you know. Because I know that if it's real important, Elaine will sense it. And she'll play Mother Duck if she has to get around and find out what the problem is. Or what I'm not telling her that needs to be told. Thank you for those comments and those questions. I think, yeah, we're all on the same page. What's the hardest part? I added this, I think last week when I was trying to put these spokes together. This wasn't written with the same pen. It was written probably 30 years later. Learn to relax when you're with each other. You have not taken an oath, you know, and you're sitting on the stand. She is not the lawyer. You may think she is by the questions that she asks. That could be eliminated, I guess. But we're trying to make the time together work to each individual good enough that we start to relax and pull together as a team. I relate everything to Jip and Buck. You know, I told you about the mules that Dad had on the farm. Jip was the strongest, but Jip was also the laziest. He had to kind of make him pull. If they pulled together, they did fine. But Jip would lay down and let Buck do most of the work. We're trying to get to the point where each one of you is pulling the part of the load that God has designed for you. That she's doing things that I can't do. And we do that by encouraging each other, listening, setting and working toward goals, and learning to relax while we're together. We need some downtime. We need some relaxed time. I'm trying to work from answering her questions about my day by asking me questions about her day first, because that's critical. I heard someone say years ago, it's been printed on t-shirts. It's so critical. If Mama ain't happy, ain't nobody. I got a note down here at the bottom of this. It's been here a long time. That I think ties not only with this spoke, but maybe with a lot of others. Mary spent a lot of time at the feet of Jesus. Tie that in wherever you want to. It's just a note down at the bottom of the page. Spoke number 3. So spoke number 1 was relationship with the Lord. Is it real? Does it exist? You know, if you erase spoke number 1 up there, you've got problems, even if we're going to operate with just 4 spokes. Spoke number 2 was worship as a family, and spoke number 3 is your time together. And then we get to spoke number 4. Boy, this ties in with all of them, especially the last one. Keep the air clear. Keep the air clear. I'm going to get your pens ready. I'm going to feed you some stuff. Number 1, no matter what happens, no matter, man, that you're sure that on this particular situation that you're facing right now, that you're right. There's conflict. There's going to be conflict. Elaine had a cousin one time that told us after they'd been married about 15 years that we never had a fight. I never believed anything he said after that because I knew he was lying. Number 1, keep talking. Don't plant. What's my tendency? My tendency is shut up. I know you don't believe that, but my tendency is to shut up. Number 2, show each other that they are important. Make sure that your spouse knows that he or she is important. It's more than important. Maybe the word's critical. I'm not sure what it is. Men, work on this, and this may have a lot to do with what you read. Learn as much as possible about her feelings. Learn about her feelings. She's a complicated individual. That's the way God made her. She's very necessary in this scenario. She's a big part of this picture that you're painting together. Learn as much as you can about her feelings. Again, now I've already cautioned you, don't try to figure her out. Don't become frustrated because you can't figure her out, because that's not going to happen. Number 4. I'm not sure this is the biggest one, but it might be. Ask her opinion. Now, I know, man, you think you're smarter than she is. You've been deceived there because you're not, probably. I know I'm not. Ask her opinion. Women have some unusual insight. Some people, I called it the intuitive awareness of life. We call it, the world calls it women's intuition. Number 5, show her that you value her, that she's valuable. She's a critical part of this team. Show her that you value her. I don't care how you do it, just determined to do it. If you don't already have it, here's number 6. Develop a sense of humor. You need to spend some time laughing together. The world makes us cry enough with the world. The world drives us to our knees. We cry enough. On this 4th spoke, develop a sense of humor. Number 7 is a little bit complicated. Well, they're all complicated to me. I'm just trying to catch on to part of them. Number 7, you may want to abbreviate this. I'm going to read it to you. Always discuss long-term adjustments. In other words, avoid sudden change. Don't need too many surprises. The world gives us enough surprises that are bad the way it is. Avoid sudden change. Discuss, because her adjusting time, I can adjust to a change maybe in 15 minutes. It may take her 3 years. Avoid that. It could destroy you. Could destroy you. Here's a good way to do it. Number 8, compliment often. Now, number 9 is, things change. I told you there's a difference between teaching couples your age and teaching couples that were in their 20s. They were in their 20s and I was in my 30s. Nancy, it was different, wasn't it?
Yes, sir.
Because here's one that was there. Oh, kind of does that until you see you sitting on the front row, huh? Take this for what it's worth. Except for a time, and we're running out of time, but Floyd's time's going to be short this morning. Elaine never worked outside the home. Now, she worked hard inside the home. She never worked outside the home except for in the mid-'80s when we just about lost the whole ship. She went to work at ITT for a while. Pulled second shift. She was perfect for second shift. She was always awake that time of night anyway. And she worked for a period of time and helped bail us out of a couple of bad decisions that I made financially. Number 9, fits for us. It may not fit for you. I handled the purse strings and I didn't handle them too well. But all of our 54 years together, except for that 2-year period, we operated with one paycheck. Number 9, let her purchase things she considers necessary. This ain't no time to pinch pennies. There's a time to be frugal. There's a time to be organized. There's time to use what you've got to the best. There's time to buy good used instead of new. Generally, that's all the time. But if you control the purse strings, she has some thoughts about some things that are necessary. I know in the day and time we have now, most people have 2 incomes. We didn't have that then. Number 10, watch out for her physical limitations. If you're moving something, get somebody else to help you. Don't expect her to lift what you can lift. Now, there may be some of you, your wife's stronger than you, but in most cases, she is the weaker vessel physically. Number 11. Oh, this is big. This is good. This should be written in purple letters and put on a sign somewhere. Brag about her to others privately. In other words, when she's not around. Brag about her. You notice me and I'm getting on your case this morning. You may not understand all this, just do it. You don't have to understand it. Number 12 usually gets a laugh, but I'm dead serious about this. Be gentle and considerate of her kinfolks. That's part of her family. She had one or two who were crazy. I mean, they were straight with all those too. But if I look objectively, I did too. Be gentle and considerate of her kinfolks. Number 13. Work on eliminating her fears. She may have some fears that could be done away with a little bit of understanding. Maybe she didn't have it earlier in life. I don't know where they came from, and I want to talk about that. Work on eliminating them. Number 14. Discover her sexual needs. We're not talking about your wants, we're talking about her needs. Number 15. And I hit this a few weeks ago from another angle. Give some space for her private time. She needs some time away from you where she and the girls go eat lunch together or do something. Us men, doesn't seem like that's a big deal. It's bigger than we think it is. Number 16. Discuss differences in private, calmly. Don't air your dirty laundry out in public. Discuss differences in private. You may not work it all out right there, but discuss it in private. You too need to know about it. Nobody else needs to know about it. I don't want to hear about it in this classroom. Do not bring it up. We cannot solve it. I don't want to know something that I'm not either a part of the problem or a part of the solution to the problem. Last one. Tell her you love her often. That's the 17 of keeping the air clear. There may be 100 of them. I just don't know about it yet. That's some that's been listed over the years. And a lot of this stuff comes from counseling situations, been fed back, and writers have picked it up and it's come to us. Keep the air clear. I think maybe there are 4 or 5 of those that are critical to you. Find out what they are and just be doing it. When God shows us something, we need to be... When I pick up the Word, I'm expecting God to show me something. But if I haven't already determined in my mind and in my heart and in my will that I'm going to do it, I might as well not read it. I'm not suggesting you don't read the Scriptures. I'm just saying, before I read, I ask the Lord to show me something. I need to make a decision in my, more than my heart and my mind. I need to make it in my will that I'm going to obey what He tells me to do. Because He'll probably tell me something that I don't like. He'll probably tell me something that I don't want to do. He's been real faithful to do that for a number of years now. So we need to make a decision, especially in our relationship, that we're going to do whatever it takes to make this thing work. And I know we got people in here that's been through divorces. We don't put you in a special category. Because I read something this week that Carolyn just kind of, popped me. This guy said that you are unique. This is one of our guests right here. Give me your hand. Said, you are unique, and so is everybody else. Whoops, I hadn't heard that before. I thought it was just me that was unique. But it's, in God's eyes, you are unique, and so is everybody else. So keep the air clear when you talk. Keep the air clear when you're not talking. Don't leave her with something bad to think about you. Leave her with something good. You're building a relationship. You're painting a picture of Christ in the church. He has selected you to do it. I kind of wish sometimes he'd selected somebody else, to tell you the truth, but that's part of his plan. Now, we're going to leave it right here because I'm already over my time. I'm going to tell you, I'd hate to load a freight wagon down with 2,500 pounds of whatever and head across the country out of Dodge City, going to Boulder, Colorado with a 6-man team. I don't think I could drive a team of 6 anyway, with just 4 spokes on each wheel. So here's what I want to challenge you. I got 2 challenges for you this week. And anybody who wants to volunteer next week, you've got the floor. I think we're going to need some more spokes. So here's what I want you to do. I've already challenged you to, in your own heart, to figure out what the hub is, where everything turns around. That's where the friction is, isn't it? What's the hub? What's the rim? The part that gets in the mud and the dirt, whatever else is on the ground, the direction you're going. You don't know what's going to be over the next hill. What's the rim made out of? Come back next week with something on your heart you want to share about what the rim is, what the hub is, and 1 spoke. I've got 4 more spokes laying at home on the kitchen table. They don't look like spokes, they look like sheets of paper. But we're going to talk about spokes 5, 6, 7, and 8 next week, and that may not be enough. Because I don't know what kind of load you're carrying. The loads change. Sometimes it gets so heavy that I'm not sure 8 spokes will handle that wheel. It might crack and break. We just talked about 4 of them today. We're going to talk about 4 more next week. You bring what in your heart on a piece of paper. Bring what you think the rim is. Maybe more than one thing. What you think the hub is to you. And what 1 more spoke should be. Do you see another spoke that needs to go in there?